All right. We've had a full day to process, right? Everything's sunk in this new turning point in your country, in society. I talked to a lot of happy people yesterday. I talked to a lot of very sad people yesterday. But like you, I talked to a lot of people who had a reaction exactly what I thought it was going to be. There are very few surprises as we go here. We'll talk about that, the reaction, and we got to talk about this, honestly, because it's just as much a factor as things I'm personally excited about, you know, a new economy, hopefully cutting down on inflation. That's for all of us, to put food on the table, right? Cutting down on crime, opportunity to get healthy, to get stronger. For a small business owner like me, maybe you, more opportunity there. Just as much as those are factors, so is this a factor. There are a lot of people, and it has begun. There are a lot of people absolutely, completely, totally melting down right now because of these election results and what's happening here. And that's not going to stop anytime soon. It's just not. And as people, we all have to just still work in the world and deal with people. And you're going to run into a lot of these people in your life, at work, in business, just, you know, at the gym, in your family, at the dinner table, Thanksgiving coming up in a couple of weeks. How to kind of deal with that in the best possible ways, because we're all going to have to deal with it. All right. Before we get to the stuff, thanks for finding Wicked Radio. Appreciate you so much. Welcome to it. Boy, this week flew by. Maybe because, I don't know, just a couple of things have been happening. Yeah. Thanks for finding the podcast, too, on the audio version of things. This audio podcast, wherever you get them, very happy with those results. And I'm telling you, if you share that, if you download the audio podcast wherever you get your podcasts, you will not only feel better and healthier, swear to God, you'll get taller, too. I'm just saying. No, I don't have scientific proof. What do you want from me? Anyway, thanks for that, too. And remember, it always lives as a post here on X and on YouTube as well after the live stream is done. All right, enough of that. Let's get to the stuff. First of all, a little update. This was headed that way. It was kind of inevitable at the point. You can officially call this an electoral landslide now, as far as the election results went. They've got the presidency. They've got the Senate. All but a formality to get the House now. That's a landslide. Just nitpicking something here, something I saw just last night, which was amazing to me. And it doesn't matter who you voted for, whatever. This is still a remarkable thing that they're going to study for years. So as much controversy as there was over the 2020 election, and you look at now, where did all those extra votes go? So there was 13, possibly up to 15 million less votes for Kamala than Biden got? I mean, is this going to add legitimacy to the questions we all had about 2020? Yeah, I think so. And also this, again, I'm not picking sides on this one, but it's pretty remarkable. There's not a county in the country, an individual county, right, that she overperformed Biden in. Not one. You know how many counties are in this country, state by state? I mean, that's incredible. All right, so that's where we are right now. So there's your update on that. Here's what's really going on. Let's check in. Microphones planted throughout every county, throughout every street in the country. Let's check in to see how let's call it, fair or not, the lib reaction, the lefty reaction on social media to the election is going. Yikes! Okay, that's enough of that. Yeah, it's not going well. And there are a lot of people very upset, obviously. You knew that was going to happen. It's real no big surprise to anybody that's where, and it's just really sinking in. It's going to take some more time, and that's going to happen, right? And there are lots of things to blame. Number one, you know, the subject of my ire most often is the media, because of, and we know this now, less and less credibility. There are less and less people who are paying attention to the mainstream networks, legacy media, and I get that, and all the propaganda that we know about now and all that other stuff, and all the they talk about misinformation. It's coming from them, and I get that. But there's always going to be a new media. Here's another thing that changes. We talked about all the changes going forward, and this is really a turning point for the country. Now the battleground for all the information, these really are the info wars. I think, as kooky as Alex Jones is, he had it exactly right. The info wars now focus on who controls the podcasts, right? The big guys, Joe Rogan, PBD, all those guys, the new media, social media, which has been a battleground for years. Now that's where the focus is. Legacy media is done. We talked about that yesterday. It is done. It'll still limp into the future, but it is done, which means, you know, the battle to grab people's hearts and minds is there as well. So now we move into the new area of like a TikTok, for example, right? they're just as much to blame with all the, and this is a proven fact. If you were, throughout the past year and a half, posting certain things or, disparaging, conservatives in a certain way, you were going to get boosted. Of course you were. That's just how it operates. So they're just as much to blame for people who, younger generation, who just live, breathe, and eat TikTok 24/7. They're just as much to blame for these meltdowns. Here's a little example here. I cherry-picked one. Just went on TikTok this morning. Here's one. Well, let's just randomly pick a reaction to the election results. Let's see how that went.
To go get my medication because I'm out and I need it for today.
Yeah.
And I saw a woman walking her 2 kids.
Oh, God, here we go.
And she had this look on her face. And I looked at her, we made eye contact, we both kind of nodded. Like we were both just devastated.
Oh, boy. And it's everywhere. Obviously it is. And this is why I say there are people like that you still have to function in society with, right? That poor girl. Because she's been totally brainwashed to think that her life is devastated because the election results didn't go her way. And they've been told that everything's going to go backwards and the government's all over her body and all the lies that are out there that Trump's going to turn the military on her. And she believes it. And I got to tell you, honestly, call me a softie or not, I don't think it's her fault whatsoever. What do you think that girl right there has been consuming for the past, I don't know, let's pick 3 or 4 years, right? Constant information like that, and from other people that are feeding into the mental illness. That's what it is, and the insanity that's out there. And I don't think it's her fault. Now, here's the difference, right? Because we all want to, and I have friends like this too, and I had to fight the temptation as well, because after 8 to 10 years of being called the worst person on earth because you didn't vote the socially accepted way, or, you're a terrible person, called people garbage and Nazis and deplorables and everything else. I know that temptation is there, and I totally, believe me, trust me, understand that temptation is there to do a victory lap. And I'm not saying you can't, because I am too, and I'm feeling great about it inside. But I know, and I have friends like this, and you probably do too, and maybe you're fighting this temptation, to rub it in the face of people like that. Because of, they got their comeuppance, right? Because after hearing that for like close to a decade, well, common sense finally prevailed. The temptation is there to throw it in the face of people like that. Don't do it. First and foremost, right? It doesn't do any good, right? Nothing you or I or anybody else says to somebody like that, or the meltdown collaboration we played there first for you is going to do any good. You're not going to change their minds. It's like people who still think they're going to win a political argument on Facebook. It's never been done. Not one. Not one mind has ever been changed by posting a meme or an argument or anything. It just doesn't do any good. So your first approach is just don't try. Keep it inside. You could still be psyched about it. And like I spent all yesterday during the live stream and online and social media excited about the future. Believe in the future of what's happening here. And like I said, the theme of yesterday was take advantage and meet the moment of how great this is going to be for everybody. But to turn it around and shove it in the face of somebody like that, it does no good. First of all, it's an asshole thing to do. Secondly, it's not effective. And third, what are you going to get out of it? You're just going to lose more people. You're not going to change any hearts or minds that way. Just don't do it. Best thing right now, while the emotions are right on the surface and hot and heavy, just ignore. You know what I mean? And you have somebody at work, the cubicle next to you, or somebody at the Thanksgiving table in a couple of weeks melting down, just kind of nod and understand and hold it for now, because you know what the real deal is. And really, you could look at it this way. Now that you got things going your way as a common sense person, and you've been aching for a new direction in the country, you don't really need to say anything. Look at it this way. This is the best thing to tell yourself. Honestly, I've told myself this. I don't need to get into a fight. I won. I already won. All right? Now, this is completely different to a person who's in private like that compared to a public figure. As much as I am here, preaching to you to say that you shouldn't get in the face of people who should do that kind of thing. Second thing is, public figures, though, politicians, feel free. That's a different story. Absolutely push back on them and criticize them as much as you want. Classic, perfect case scenario. Let's go to AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, this is somebody that's going to be in the public eye, very influential for many years. She's so young. There are very few people in this country that have sent out more disinformation than her. You want a perfect example of it? Here you go.
Of fascism and authoritarianism. And this is the era that we are poised to enter.
No, it's not.
Donald Trump has talked about turning the military on U.S. citizens that he deems his domestic political enemies.
No, he hasn't. There I have a problem. This isn't just some girl that you work with who's having a meltdown, right? A he/her with blue hair that's having a meltdown that you should just try to encourage to try to help that person or just stay silent. The AOCs of the world, the politicos, the public figures, have at it, because she's an asshole. And she's a horrible, horrible person. She knows damn well everything she said right there is a lie, but is still twisting the minds of her young, influential voters and people that follow her online. She has a massive social media presence. She's going to be a force for years. That's why it's so dangerous. Pick all you want, pick a fight with those people. Public figures? Oh, absolutely. Because that is just absolutely awful. It really is. So whatever era we're entering in here, feel free to take it out on the politicos, but not the people in your personal life or people on the street. Again, what's the message? You won. You don't have to deal with a fight with a real person. But those people, and here's what it leads to, too. Now, here's another different effort. As much as it's absolutely credible that there are going to be a lot of people, this may go on for quite a few years, they're going to be, really, really twisted about this entire result. It's going to go on for a long time. This is just as much of a factor. There's going to be a darker side to this whole thing because this is what they do. So the organizations have already started. It took less than 12 hours before the election results are in, before the organizations like the ACLU, started doing media hits on MSNBC, which is where you're going to hear this right here, that have called for taking it to the streets. And in the hidden messages in all this, it's something really dark. This is the ACLU deputy director on MSNBC just yesterday.
One of the reasons why I want to stress to people, we need you in the streets, because the courts will not always do everything for us.
But is there more?
Okay, this is the dark side of this kind of thing. Isn't this just the regular person in life that nobody knows that's having a tough time because of the election didn't go their way. These are organized organizations from the left that are calling for what they said, taking it to the streets. The next step is taking it to violence. I'm not picking this out of thin air. We saw it in the riots of 2020. Remember the mostly peaceful riots and the Antifa riots? There is going to be some of that. How it's handled, I don't know, and there may be false flags everywhere. And this is where they really try to, get the new Trump incoming administration. See, we told you they were going to turn the military on ordinary citizens, and they'll try to call rioters and people taken to the streets and causing violence. They'll call them ordinary people. They'll go back to mostly peaceful. I will guarantee you that's going to happen again. And this happened, too, as a follow-up. Somebody sent this to me yesterday, an ACLU member, that along with that guy's appearance of taking it to the streets, they sent out an email to supporters apparently saying, I know in this moment it's frightening. Many people included feel anxious. Let me be clear. We're clear-eyed about the chaos and destruction a second Trump term is going to cause. We're done hand-wringing, admiring the problem, or waiting anxiously. The ACLU is built for moments like this. The fight, keywords, to protect our democracy is just beginning. They're calling for this kind of stuff. And it's very similar to when, in the first Trump administration, you had people like Maxine Waters. Remember her from California, that representative? You get in their face. It was Michelle Obama. They go low, we go lower. Those kinds of calls for things. That's coming too, and that's a different story. At best advice, keep your head on a swivel. Don't get involved in it. And it's easy for me to sit here and dish out this advice to people, especially who live in urban areas, but I'm dealing with it too. And I will tell you personally, in our personal life, I think I've said many times that one of my daughters goes to college in Manhattan. When she started college, it was, Biden was already in. And knowing what I know, I already knew that the violence in the streets, this crime, obviously, she's a street smart kid, but there's crime in the streets. I knew that was happening. But I knew that the calls for this kind of stuff of street violence wasn't going to happen because they won. When was the last time you heard of Antifa? Hasn't happened. That happens when they're not in power. They call out their brown shirts. That's what happens. Well, when's the last time you heard of riots? 2020. But then he got elected, and all of a sudden, magically, that stopped. Keep your head in a swivel, and just be careful, and don't engage in that kind of crap. It's the best advice of all. So I'm here with you. We're going through that right now, and I'm trying to, without freaking her out, talking to my daughter about just keeping aware of things that are going on, because there's two different things here. There's people like the poor girl on TikTok we played who's just having a meltdown. And then there's organized organizations that would love to call for violence and blame it on somebody else. That's the dark side of this thing. You just got to be aware. All right, after all that crap, there's something I totally forgot about. Totally unaware. I didn't even think about it. It's not that I forgot. I didn't even think about what's coming up here during the next administration. Next year. It's America's 250th birthday party. I totally forgot about that. That's amazing. And there he is, President-elect Trump yesterday, putting together a video talking about plans. The guy loves to throw a party. We know that. Do you remember in his last year in office, he had in front of Mount Rushmore, the July 4th celebration, and there were jets flying overhead, and there were fireworks, and there was a gathering, and there were bands and all this stuff. That was awesome. Take that, if you remember that, and multiply it by like 1,000, because he, and I think everybody, is going to be psyched about this. So there he was. He did a video for Mar-a-Lago yesterday talking about the plans starting soon, getting ready for the celebration for America's 250th birthday coming up next year. Check this out.
Here is my plan to give America's founding in 1776 the incredible anniversary it truly deserves. On day one, I will convene a White House task force called Salute to America 250.
Yeah.
It will be responsible for coordinating with state and local governments to ensure not just one day of celebration, but an entire year of festivities across the nation, starting on Memorial Day 2025 and continuing through July 4th, 2026.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's going to be fantastic. And of course, the first criticism is going to come out. Trump is spending money on a party instead of helping regular Americans. Okay, whatever. Get ready for that, too. I am ready to party. I think it's going to be fantastic. I remember that as a child in 1976, a small child. Yeah, and that old. I was 6 years old. And that was pretty cool back then. Can you imagine this? I cannot wait. All right, the takeaway? Listen, the meltdown is underway. You know that. You don't have to be involved. You don't have to do a victory lap. Do the victory lap inside. You freaking won. You should feel good about that inside. You don't have to get in anybody's face. But you can criticize the dopes like AOC who's calling for that stuff. And you got to be aware of organizations like the ACLU and God knows who else calling for taking it to the streets. Okay. Just be smart and know you won. That's the main takeaway. Thanks for finding me every single day. Put your notifications on, by the way, if you happen to do follow me, because we do Wicked Radio live Monday through Friday every single day during the workday. Got to take weekends off at 8 a.m. where we talk about this kind of stuff. And, going forward, too, and there was a call. I saw an amazing post, by the way. We talked about this a little yesterday. Saw an amazing post that Elon Musk reposted about talking about post-election stuff. And he was all in on it. Somebody just, I don't know who it was, posted to and got his attention and said, post-election, we got to start talking about mental health and physical health and well-being going in the future. I'm all on board in that. We got to make a pivot here. Of course, we're going to talk about current events, but we're going to talk about personal empowerment as well. And I can't wait for that. Because he's exactly right. Because that's where I think it's going. That's the biggest opportunity of all. All right, cool. Thanks for finding the audio podcast, too. Wherever you get those, sharing those along. The takeaway? Know you won. You don't have to get in anybody's face. Let the meltdown happen and let that settle down. And number two, obviously every single day, it doesn't mean you have to take any crap from anybody, ever. Thanks for finding me. Tomorrow, oh my God, is tomorrow Friday? Going to start the weekend with a bang. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. live right here. Thanks for hanging out.